Right before Season 22 launched, I put out a video talking about one of the upcoming builds I was excited about, and that's the Doomfang Pauldron Void Titan build. Now that we've gotten a bit of time to play with it in the new update, man, let me tell you, this build is as good as I'd hoped it'd be. The fact that you can have such strong abilities and weapons, plus having amazing survivability from Void Titan feels too good to be true. This build does have a few things to keep in mind when using if you want to maximize your power. First up, because of our aspects, we want to use our barricade and then our melee. When we have an overshield, our powered melee has increased damage, which can be key to getting a kill in harder content, so we can proc our ×4 void weapon damage. The other thing to note is when choosing where and when to use your super, I recommend early in any encounter. Since our melee gives us a ton of super energy, we can pop it early in an encounter and clear out most of the small adds with our shield throw and using our melee on tougher targets. The only other thing to note is that if you're facing a boss that's on the ground, the void wall grenade is king. If you know the boss will be something like a witch, then you might want to run a vortex grenade instead, but after playing with the void wall more, I've learned to love it and I'll definitely be using it in most all activities. If you find this video helpful and like seeing build videos and other Destiny 2 helpful content, leave a like on the video and consider hitting that subscribe button. With that being said, let's jump right on into it. First things first, I'll highlight all the changes at the end of the video, so if you're using the build from the preseason, you can easily change anything that's new. And as always, there's a link to the build in the description, but we are keeping the super and the abilities the same. So for our super, we're using Sentinel Shield. This pairs very well with our exotic and our build overall. I love the ad clearing potential of this super, though in certain situations bubble might be better. We do get 20% super energy on powered melee kills, and we get 10% of our super back when we hit an enemy with our shield throw while we're in our super. We'll also get a second shield throw with one of our aspects, meaning we can easily generate more super energy while we're in it. And for the abilities, I'm taking Rally Barricade. It has that faster recharge time, which we love, plus you'll get an extra little bit of reload speed. I'm taking Strafe Lift as per usual, use whichever one you like. I'm still taking Shield Throw. I do believe the ranged overshield is better and it's easier to use in more situations, though if you are running into overload champions, you can take Shield Bash for that suppression to stun them. And for our grenade, like I said, I'm taking Void Wall Grenade. The amount of damage that comes from it feels so much better. There are times that I wish I had the Vortex Grenade, since some adds can fly, but you still can throw a void wall grenade directly hitting them and it'll still apply the weaken effect, but it'll basically get no grenade damage. Moving on to our aspects, I'm taking Offensive Bulwark. Since we get our super energy back on shield throws, I'm taking Offensive Bulwark since it'll give us that extra shield throw while we're in our super, making it a little bit easier to keep us in our super for longer. Plus, whenever we do have that overshield, our grenades are recharging 400% faster, and our powered melees are going to deal double damage. This is perfect since we get that ×4 void weapon boost whenever we get that powered melee kill, and we want that extra melee damage to guarantee that kill. We're also going to pair this with Bastion, making it so our barricade grants overshield to you and nearby allies. It pairs perfectly with Offensive Bulwark to give ourselves more survivability, more grenades, and stronger shield throws. For our fragments, first up, I'm taking Echo of Instability, where defeating enemies with grenades will give volatile rounds to our weapons. We are going to be using our weapons a lot, and getting those volatile rounds makes it that much easier to clear out entire waves of enemies. Plus, it gives us the added benefit of defeating barrier champs. I'm also taking Echo of Remnants, making our Void Wall Grenade last longer, and this alone nearly doubles its damage. If you are running Vortex Grenade, it'll also make that one last longer. I'm also going to take Echo of Starvation, where when we pick up a Void Breach or an Orb, we're given Devour. Devour will give us health back and grenade energy, and it's honestly a catalyst for most Void builds. We're also taking Echo of Undermining, where Void Grenades weaken targets, making them take an extra 15% damage from all sources. Again, this is going to make our grenade and our weapons do that much more damage. Alright, let's talk about ways to improve the build. Our exotic choice is the Doomfang Pauldrons, and remember, for that exotic, we get bonus super energy and ×4 void weapon damage upon getting a powered melee kill. Powered melee hits will give us overshield, which will amp up our grenade recharge rate. Since our melee is so critical for powering up this build, we'll be focusing on getting it back fairly quickly. Also, our barricade gives us overshield, which is great for survivability and extra grenade recharge, meaning we want to get that back as quick as possible too. We'll be generating lots of orbs, meaning we should have constant uptime on our Devour, which heals us and gives us a little bit more grenade energy. We do have some changes to the mods, so let's take a look at what mods I'm going to be using for this build. First up, for our stat mods, we are still taking Resilience at 100. It gives us that extra damage resistance, and it also gives us a shorter cooldown on our barricade. Next up, I'm taking 100 Discipline. Since our grenade has a longer cooldown, I'm going to focus on getting our grenade back even quicker, which is going to feed back into our other abilities. And I'm also going to take 50 Strength. If we can get to 50 for our Strength, then we can have roughly the same cooldown rate for both our grenade and our melee. And honestly, anything past 50 kind of feels like diminishing returns. Alright, for our helmet mods, I'm going to take Harmonic Siphon and I'm going to take 2 of them this time, meaning rapid void weapon kills are going to create orbs. And since we have 2, those orbs are going to give us a little bit more super energy. Since we are going to be powering up our weapons, getting rapid void weapon kills is going to be easy. I'm also going to pair this with with ashes to assets, making it so our grenade gives us back more super energy. Since this season we have ways to generate more heavy ammo and special ammo, heavy ammo or special ammo finder isn't really necessary, and while we do get our super back pretty quickly, this will just help feed into it a little bit quicker. For our arms, I'm taking momentum transfer, meaning we get 20% melee energy when we do damage with a grenade. Since we do have devour and other ways to get our grenade back quicker, this will help feed back into our melee if we do need our melee. And I'm also going to pair this with heavy-handed or firepower. It's up to you, whichever one you want. Both our grenade and our melee are super strong, so we can use either of them to generate orbs. And finally, I'm taking focusing strike, meaning we get 20% of our class ability energy whenever we do powered melee damage. We should be using our melee right after using our barricade, so it's nice to have that bump of class ability energy as soon as we use it. Moving on to the chest. I am going to take 3 resistance mods. I usually like to do 1 harmonic and another element, plus concussive dampener. Feel like this gives you a pretty good spread. Pair it to whatever content you're doing. Moving on to the legs. I'm going to take harmonic scavenger. This means our void weapons are going to get slightly more reserves whenever we do pick up a brick. And this pairs well with our seasonal mod, making it a little bit cheaper. I'm also taking orbs of restoration and absolution, meaning whenever we do pick up an orb, we're granted 5% ability energy for all of our abilities and some ability energy for our least charged ability. Since we don't have a kickstart mod and we have a way to generate tons of orbs, this ability energy seems to help out a lot with the ability cycle. All right, moving on to the mark. First up, I'm taking Reaper. After we use our barricade, our next weapon kill grants an orb. This paired with harmonic siphon just feels great. You can have plenty of times that you get a kill, use your barricade and get another kill, and that next kill is going to give you 2 orbs. We're also then going to pair this with powerful attraction, meaning we pick up any nearby orbs whenever we use our barricade. Since we are taking either our powered melee or our grenade to generate more orbs, that means you can either use your powered melee or your grenade and kill an enemy that's in front of you and immediately use powerful attraction or your barricade to pick up those orbs, giving you back even more ability energy. And lastly, I'm taking Bomber, which makes it so when we use our barricade, we're granted grenade energy. Since we should have a pretty much infinite uptime on Devour, we pair this with getting our overshield from using our barricade, we should have our grenades back pretty quickly. And when we use our grenades, not only are we weakening targets and dealing damage, but we're also using our grenade to feed back into our melee, and we're getting volatile rounds. Win-win-win. All right, let's look at the seasonal mods that might be helpful for this build. First up, in column 2, we want Diviner's Discount for that cheaper scavenger mods. In column 3, we want Elemental Orbs Void, meaning now our Void weapons have a chance to spawn a Void Elemental Orb that does damage and makes targets volatile. And in column 4, we want Elemental Fury, making it so our Elemental Orbs and abilities do more damage to stunned champions. We're also going to take Communal Pickups, making it so when an ally picks up our Elemental Orb, its cooldown's reduced, plus we do bonus damage with our Void weapons. And for the final one in column 4, we're also going to take Refreshing Pickups, meaning whenever we pick up an Elemental Orb, we're granted ability energy to our least charged ability. All right, for column 5, the first one we want is Monochromatic Maestro, making our abilities buff our weapons and our weapons buff our abilities by 10% or 5 seconds. We use both our weapons and abilities a ton, so this is massive. You basically have an infinite uptime on a 10% increase for both. The other column 5 mod we're taking is going to be Elemental Munitions, making our elemental orbs have a chance to drop special or heavy. We should be creating a ton of these, and we want to use them for extra damage, more ability energy, and now to create even more ammo. All right, let's talk about the weapons. For the most part, weapons are staying the same. I find Graviton Lance to be amazing with this build, since it has the ability to do AoE damage after a kill. I find that because of all of our buffs, I can shoot one ad in a group and kill the entire group. I had one time where I shot one enemy in a new room and left. I noticed that I kept getting kills for like 5 to 6 seconds, since ads just kept spawning and then immediately dying. I did try Collective Obligation, and while it's definitely good, I found Graviton to be better since it's good at both solo and group damage. All right, for our first slot, I like to take a special weapon. I like to take a weapon that fits the situation I'm in. If there's a lot of long range targets, Succession is a great option. If there's more close range targets, such as Champions, Heritage, or any other shotgun is also very good. And if I'm in a raid-like scenario where high DPS is needed, Izanagi's and Witherhoard are both great options. All right, let's talk about that second slot, that Void primary slot. We want to take a Void weapon with a damage perk. And let's talk about those primary weapons for a second. Because we're getting an extra 25% damage from our exotic, we want to stack into that with damage-based perks. Golden Tricorn is definitely awesome since we can get that 15 base damage after each weapon kill, and then while we have that buff, we get one ability kill, and we now have a 10-second buff of a whopping 50% increased damage just for that perk. Meaning now, if we stack all of our buffs and debuffs from this season, we can have upwards of a 251 increased weapon damage for 5 to 10 seconds.
Done. Dun, dun.
Though this is a picture-perfect scenario. However, this is why I like Graviton so much. Since we don't have to worry about proccing Golden Tricorn, we immediately get a 40% increase on red bars since it is an exotic. Plus, with the Catalyst, we get a 20% increase on everything else besides normal yellow bar enemies. This means on mini-bosses, champions, and bosses, we're getting a 72% increased damage with a powered melee kill and throwing a grenade, making Graviton Lance my favorite option. Another great option if you don't want to use an exotic can be the Velis X. This rolls with Repulsor Brace and Golden Tricorn, which is a nasty combo. Golden Tricorn amps up the amount of damage this weapon can do, and Repulsor Brace gives us overshield whenever we're defeating volatile targets or weakened targets. Since our grenades weaken targets and then immediately give us volatile rounds whenever they get a kill, it's going to be easy to proc Repulsor Brace. And whenever you do have that overshield, your grenades are going to recharge a little bit quicker as well. Some other great options include SMGs. Unforgiven has a few good rolls, though I have a funnel web with Subsistence and Adrenaline Junkie, and that feels amazing. For auto rifles, we have Age-Old Bond, which again rolls with Repulsor Brace, and you can get Golden Tricorn or destabilizing rounds. These are just a few options, but there are plenty of other great options out there. Just make sure you are using a void weapon, and especially with one with a damage perk. Alright, for our third slot, we're taking a heavy hitter, which again we want to pair into void. Our power weapon mainly depends on what activity we're doing, and which exotic we're going to be using. If we do have an exotic slot available, Leviathan's Breath and Twin-Tailed Fox are both great options. If we don't have an exotic slot available, and we are using something like Graviton Lance, then Taipan or Retrofit Escapade are both great options. Retrofit isn't the best overall DPS, but it's great at just ad clearing and doing decent boss DPS, which does make it feel very good. I've also been using Regnant, which is a heavy grenade launcher, and man, does it feel good. With how many orbs we generate, I have a roll with auto-loading and explosive light, so I can easily pull it out, unload a few grenades and put it away, and pretty much always have explosive light active. And remember, explosive light is a 60% increase on grenade launchers instead of the normal 25% on rockets. Our grenades are going to be doing over double damage with this and our exotic alone, and this can be easily increased with any of the other ways we can amp up our damage. Now that I've gotten to try it out in action, I am thoroughly satisfied with this build. We have many ways to buff our weapons and abilities and create orbs. We can easily gain overshield or health because we're on void. Our weapons feel powerful, and so do our abilities. Not to mention, we generate a ton of orbs and super energy, so we can basically use our super whenever we want. Here are the main changes for the build. Pause if you do want to read it. Let me know your thoughts on the build. What would you change or how would you improve it? That's it for me. Peace out.